The phrase from that time is safe, effective, and potent. That is the great hope right now for all of us. Dave Ricks, how close are we to safe, effective, and potent?
Well, thanks for having me on. It's obviously a time when the importance of our scientists' work is at a high. As you mentioned, back to our days with the polio vaccine, that's really in our blood here at Lilly, is to respond to these public health crises. We're working on the medicine side, and I think we are close to understanding that treatment with monoclonal antibodies, which we're making, and others are, early in the disease can make a significant difference. We announced data earlier in October regarding that, and we've got an application at the FDA reviewing that very data.
Which therapy has the best outcome where we can say we have a vaccine? Peter Hotez at Baylor Medicine is saying simply we need something cheap and old school. John spoke with Novartis this morning. There's Moderna, all the rest of them. Which is the approach, Mr. Ricks? It seems to be the one that will get us to a societal vaccine.
Well, I think on the vaccine side, the good news is there's lots of approaches being tried.
Yes.
You know, in our business, we need data. I don't think it makes sense to guess at which would be the most effective. The good news is we'll know that, and we'll know that pretty soon. The early ones, as you pointed out, are the mRNA, a new technology that's never produced a human vaccine before, but looks pretty promising in terms of the ability to generate our own antibody response, and that's a good sign, I think, for defeating the virus or preventing infectious spread. We don't know how long that will last. There's other approaches that have produced vaccines, modified virus, taking different viruses and mounting elements of the COVID virus on them. And those are more proven. They're a little harder to scale, but they also may produce a good response. Mostly, I'm confident because we have so many shots on goal, really an unprecedented number so quickly.
Yeah.
So I think science will win in the end. It's just hard to pick the winner at this point in the horse race.
John, that's a hockey phrase there. That's not a soccer phrase because there's so few shots on goal.
I thought it might be a soccer phrase.
In soccer. That's a hockey phrase there from Mr. Ricks.
You don't know what Dave meant. I'm just going to interpret it as a soccer phrase. It still makes sense.
Okay,
Dave,
thank you.
You mentioned the word scale, and I want to return to antibody therapies, and please help me understand how difficult it is to scale something up quickly in large amounts as soon as you get the green light.
Yeah, it's difficult. Because it's so difficult, we actually started commercial manufacturing in the first week in July. So we had to basically aim at a target that hadn't arrived at its point yet. We didn't know the dose. We didn't know whether the drug could work. We didn't know in which setting it would work. And today, or yesterday, we announced a study we'd been conducting with the NIH. We're going to pause because it's in a later stage of the disease where probably these antibodies won't be as effective. Whereas in early stage of the disease, looks highly effective. So we already started that process. It's about 4 months from beginning to end, best case, to start manufacturing and have output. And then on top of all that, the global infrastructure to make monoclonal antibodies, which are some of the most complicated and expensive type of medicines to make, is limited. We've harnessed actually 5 different sites within our network, collaborating with Amgen and working with a large contract manufacturer owned by Samsung, actually, in Korea, to sequester a significant amount of volume. Even then, we know it won't be enough for all the needs based on the current infection rates. So we need to work on lower doses and then concentrating these important therapies where they can make the biggest impact. For us right now, we think that's high-risk patients right as they're diagnosed.
Rick, there's also Dave, excuse me. There's also a question of profitability, and your latest earnings report, which just came out, said that you expect to spend $400 million on COVID therapies, exploring what could potentially work. And there's a natural cap to whatever you can charge for these remedies because there is a public health need and benefit right now. How profitable can these therapies actually be based on the human interest here?
Yeah, so today we announced earnings. It's a good point. That's why I'm on, which showed another solid quarter. We grew revenue and profit amidst this pandemic we're in. And really, I think it shows the resilience of a company like ours. As we think about pricing and access, our first priority is that patients pay nothing. We know that if there's an out-of-pocket costs, that economics will start to differentiate who gets the drug. And we think that health status should be the only factor considered. So we're working with governments to procure and sell our medicines and distribute within their markets. In terms of pricing, what we're thinking about carefully is to create a price that immediately creates value, not just for us, but for the system, meaning it saves money, direct costs very quickly. And we've demonstrated we can reduce hospitalization risk in high-risk patients between 70 and 80%. In the U.S., a hospitalization stay for COVID is about $22,000 per person. So there's ample room to share that value, assuming the drug is approved. So we're working on the exact price. It won't be as profitable as other products, certainly. We expect to have a modest return for shareholders based on our modeling today. But I think companies like ours, we were built for moments like this. Our job is to invest at risk, use our science to solve tough problems, and there's a tough problem at hand right now, and that's why we're applying ourselves to it.